Alrighty, welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics Tuesday evening. We are discussing back-to-back Thursday games for the Green Bay Packers. We're discussing their win on Thanksgiving over the Miami Dolphins and their upcoming Thursday game against the Detroit Lions. I don't know why I was blanking on that for a split second. But going to Detroit this week, so we're going to recap the Dolphins, preview the Lions, and let's get into it.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, so we're going to start by sheesh, I am just all over the place. We're going to start by recapping the Dolphins' win on Thanksgiving evening. So we're going to start with Jake and the pass rush.
Yeah, so we start out with a bang. So these stats are according to PFF. I did see that the Packers.com shared a different sack number. They said 5. On PFF, they gave credit for 6. They gave LVN 2 sacks. So, again, he had 2 of the 6 sacks. Walker, Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr., and Kenny Clark got on the board. If you saw Tyler and I's breakdown, I was at the game, and, man, that was the loudest I was screaming during the whole game was when Kenny Clark finally got on the board. I was like, finally, Kenny got home. I was so happy for him, so happy for the Packers. Hopefully he's a guy that steps up his game as the season goes on, as it seems that a lot of people have Enagbare, LVN, and Gary are some of the few that have really, really risen to the moment. Mosby as well is a very good honorable mention. In terms of quarterback hits, we only had 1. Rashawn Gary had that. And then we get to the hurries. And last week I called it a CVS receipt. This week I'm calling it a Thanksgiving grocery receipt. Play there on the holiday. 15 hurries by the Green Bay Packers pass rush. 3 apiece by Walker, Wyatt, and Gary. Van Ness, Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr., Slayton, Wilson, and Kenny Clark all get in on the action. I mean, that's tremendous stuff. I also want to apologize if anybody hates my cold, sick voice. I'm battling a virus right now, but we're going to make it through.
It's a good thing our show is virtual, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we got December candy coming up, and then for what it's worth, Jake, I just looked on Packers.com, and they have him credited for 3 sacks on the season now. So he must have got credited for the 2, like you said.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah.
So the Packers did have a sack that was wiped out by an offsides, but that was offset by a false start on the very next play, so I'm not super worried about that. Lucas Van Ness took advantage of a botched snap to get his first sack of the game, and that turned into back-to-back sacks by LVN and Kingsley Enagbare. That forced a punt on the third possession for the Dolphins. Like Jake said, Kenny Clark got his first sack, which is great to see. The 22 pressures that the team had, 17 of them came from the defensive line. They did have 3 penalties, in my opinion, that can be prevented easily. The neutral zone infraction penalties are a little bit – I'm not going to go as far to say irritating. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Irritating.
But it's
irritating.
They're easily correctable.
Yeah.
Is what
4 in 2 games.
Yeah. I'll have some thoughts when we get to the preview on some of the stuff with the defensive line as far as some of these other things go. So going into it, go to the linebackers and the tackling. Brian, how do you think they did?
A lot of people are going to say that the linebackers had a great game. I think they had an okay game, but I'll explain here in a minute. So McDuffie had 10 tackles. He did have 6 run stops, which was huge. He forced a fumble. We didn't recover it, but he forced a fumble on the sidelines. And then, Quay Walker had the 6 tackles, but I thought he was most impressive in the pass rushing game. He produced 4 pressures and a sack. He's been very impressive in that role the last couple weeks, and I hope it continues this week. We'll need it to continue. I thought Eric Wilson didn't have a very good game. He just produced 3 tackles, pretty quiet. As a whole, the team did well overall by only having 6 missed tackles and only allowing 39 rush yards. But now, when you talk about coverage, do either of you know what was credited against the linebackers in coverage?
I do not.
Something like 11 of 14 or something like that.
Yeah, so here's the numbers. So against McDuffie, 11 for 14 for 141 yards and a touchdown. Quay 7 for 7 for 50 yards. Wilson 4 for 4 for 39 yards. So as a total, the linebackers were credited against them were 22 for 25 for 230 yards and a touchdown. I do think that has a lot to do with what we were allowing them to do, though. I don't think the linebackers were that bad, but it kind of harkens back to me talking on the year that their coverage hasn't been that good either. So I feel like anything they wanted in the middle field they had, but I also think Green Bay was essentially giving that to them as well because the way the game was going. So it looks awfully bad. I don't think it was quite that bad. McDuffie had the one really good hit to break up that first down or would have been a first down where he destroyed the guy and he couldn't hold on to the pass. But overall, that's concerning is we can't really allow Detroit to do that against us. So we'll see, because I feel like Detroit's we'll get into that, but they're more efficient. But it worked against Miami this week. So people see the numbers and people are probably feeling like, holy cow, 22 for 25 for, 230 yards against the linebackers. Yes, that's what PFF credited against them. Was it that bad? No, because that's what we allowed them to do.
Can I jump in on the secondary before I go to third down, Jake?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Tua did complete 37 out of 46 passes for 365 yards. Obviously, he had 2 touchdowns, one of them lucky, so call it what you will.
Yeah.
However, he had 0 big-time throws credited to him. And my main emphasis is the Packers keeping everything in front of them. That's my main takeaway. They forced Miami to try to dink and dunk their way down the field. They didn't allow Miami to get behind them because that's where you have the games like Miami played against the Broncos last year where they score 70 points because they just keep getting Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle running all over the field and then getting Devon Achane in on it, running all over the field. And the Packers didn't let the Dolphins do that. So, yes, they allowed a lot of easy completions, but they kept everything in front of them.
Yeah,
that's my biggest takeaway. I believe that made it hard for Miami to gain any solid momentum. They scored a couple touchdowns in the second half, but there was no point in this game where I felt like Miami felt like they were going to come back and win this game.
I think the only time that I got close for me was before that goal line stand where they could have turned it into a 1-point game. Not necessarily that they would come out and win the game, but it was going to get stupid and a lot closer than it ever needed to be. But good job on the defense to stop them there.
Yeah, just not trying to stop the Dolphins, but just trying to contain them is kind of how I look at it. Yeah. All right, Jake, how do they do on third and fourth down?
Yeah, so third and fourth down, excuse me, on third down, 4 of 14 on third down, so very good again. Packers third down defense been phenomenal the entire season. They're doing a better job at forcing more long conversions than short conversions. That's something that I've noticed. 7 out of 14 attempts, so half of their attempts that they had to try to pick up a first down or third down were from third and long situations. So for me, I wrote that as 8 yards and up. So that's a lot of shitty situations, a lot of advantageous situations for the Packers. And they only got one of them, 1 for 7 on third and longs, 1 for 4 on third and mediums, and 2 for 3 on third and shorts. So you keep offenses out of that third and manageable situation, you're going to be successful as a defense. They did allow 3 for 5 on fourth down, but I not to backtrack too much, but I look at those linebacker stats as kind of empty stats. Being at the game, kind of having a bird's eye view of everything. A lot of that was like Jonnu Smith in the flats. That gets credited to the linebackers, but he was literally just a safety valve because the Packers are playing too deep almost all day. Yeah. And like you said, Tyler, not allowing Waddle and Hill to kind of run wild. A lot of the stuff was just on the left side of the field because Tua is a left-hander, and they were just allowing that little soft zone right there, and that's what they wanted to give up, and it worked out. The Packers made a bunch of stands, and when they had to make plays on first and second down to force long third downs, they did that. So credit to the defense. The defense as a whole is playing a lot better as a unit.
And on the fourth down specifically, I'm just going to toss this in here before I go back to you for the red zone. On the 4th and 4, instead of rushing 3 like Hafley's done previously, he sent the house on 4th and 4. I loved that. And I loved the way that Jeff Halfley did a much better job this week of mixing up the looks that the quarterback was seeing and rushing different types of pass rushes where sometimes you have 3 guys coming from just the left side and nobody's rushing on the right and you're dropping guys back. I like Jeff Halfley mixing up those pressures and dialing up some pressure on a 4th and 4. I like that.
Yeah,
so, Jake, how did the Packers defense do in the red zone?
Now, the stat sheet's going to say 2 for 4. I don't look at it as a 2 for 4 because they got a very lucky touchdown off a tip.
Give a 1.5.
I believe it was was it Xavier McKinney that tipped that pass? I believe it was Xavier McKinney on the goal line that basically tipped the pass in the air, and then Tyreek Hill ended up falling underneath the ball, and it was a touchdown. But
I think you're right.
I think it was Xavier McKinney. I think Tua would telegraph that pass. So as much as that sucked, the Packers had their best red zone stop of the season in this game. They had 2nd and goal from the 1-yard line. And you could feel the energy in the stadium kind of shifting a little bit. Momentum was kind of going towards Miami. This is where Brian was talking like, okay, this game was going to get closer than it should have been. And everybody was getting kind of anxious. I was like, all right, time for the big boys to be the big boys, right? And this is where you nut up. And they did exactly that. They stood their ground. The defensive linemen, they squared up. They held their ground, and they allowed the linebackers and DBs to do their job. And as a unit, that was by far the best red zone possession that they have had on defense this year. On both sides of the ball, they're getting a lot better in the red zone, which is making them a real Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
How about that? Brian, how did you feel about special teams?
Well, obviously with that, I feel like that first punt where we recovered the kick, kudos to Rochelle. He was battling through some stuff. Sounds like he lost like 3 people pretty close to him. I didn't find the full story, but he lost some people.
Childhood friends that died. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to punt right away, 3 and out essentially. Punt. The last 2 games that we've won or whatever. We go take the ball and score a touchdown. Well, after that punt and that fumble recovery, we go down, and I felt like it was just so deflating for Miami to feel like they probably felt pretty good. Probably felt like they got away with one too, because if Love has a little more time, we probably throw a touchdown on that play, or if he just makes a better throw. But they probably felt like they got away with one. We punt. What happens? They have this narrative they can't play in the wind. It's cold and wind. What first thing that happens is they muff a punt. We get it back and we score 7-0, and we never look back. So I thought it was a huge momentum turn. So good on the Packers. They've been good in getting down on punt coverage all year long. Wheeling is absolutely booming punts. So that makes a difference too. I can't imagine trying to it's dark, it's snowing, and it's cold as hell out, and you got to try to catch that thing. That's not fun to do, especially if you don't get a lot of practice in it. And I don't care what Miami did in Miami. There's no replicating those conditions. Yeah. So good on them for that. Also really good on McManus. I don't know how he looked pregame. Maybe Jake can touch on that a little bit, but hitting 46 yards, a 46-yarder in that weather is great. It's 3 for 3 on kicks. And then Wheeling, 4 punts, 3 inside the 20 and 1 for over, or 1 along a 50. And just an excellent performance again.
Yeah, really can't ask for anything more.
And Mixon had that big return too, right? Or was that
he did.
Yep.
He had the big return to start the game, right? So
yep.
He was so close to taking that thing to the house.
Dude, he was.
So, really good game. But I feel so at ease with this special teams group. And, knock on wood, I know we're going into our ugly times here, but it's been a lot more calming. Like, even Matt LaFleur came out and said basically he doesn't even watch the kicks anymore.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Credit to Rich Bisaccia, too. Having that group, and this is something we had a play breakdown of a kick coverage. Kick coverage being an asset for the Packers. And shout out to Aaron Mosby for making a really good play on a kick coverage. But, got to give some credit to Rich Bisaccia for getting this group this much improved. Something really happy to see, something that's been kind of an Achilles heel over the years.
Did you watch the pregame warm-up kicks, Jake?
I'm going to be honest with you. I did not.
Okay.
I was the guy I was sitting next to actually used to be a replay ref for the NFL.
Oh,
so wow. I was just like, I was in a
Picking his brain.
Cloud 9, dude, just talking to this guy. He was telling me all these stories and stuff, and I'm like, oh, dude, this is so sick, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering to see how he was kicking in
Yeah.
that cold, but he's kicked in Denver and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and it gets cold there in the winter, so I have no concerns with.
Should have given him a business card.
I should. I actually did invite him on the pod.
Nice.
I got it.
Alrighty. Going into the coaching, I already mentioned Halfley. Shout out to Matt LaFleur. His play calling, especially in the red zone, much, much better in the San Francisco and Miami games compared to the Chicago game. We talked about this in the play breakdowns as well. Just much, much better. And my favorite thing about the coaching of this game is the way that they managed the before halftime possession. They get the ball with 22 seconds left and 3 timeouts to go about – they need to get about 40 yards to get into field goal possession, and two shots to Tucker Kraft and a Chris Brooks run, and they're in the field goal range, call a timeout, and get 3 points, steal 3 points before halftime. I love the way that they managed that clock and that time management before halftime. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the offense and start with tight ends.
Oh, and we're going to start with my boy Tucker Kraft. So he had 1 catch under 10 yards. He got 9 yards on that, 12 yards of rack.
Nice.
The guy literally just doesn't go down, dude. Every time he touched the ball, I was laughing my ass off. So I was like, these sorry son of a bitches don't even want to be here. Now they have to tackle a guy that wants to run through their face.
Did you know who one of the tackles that he broke was?
He ran through someone's face.
It was Jalen Ramsey.
Was it?
That was Jalen Ramsey.
Dude, Jalen Ramsey wanted 0 part of tackling on Thursday night. 0 part of it.
How did the stadium react when Tucker Kraft trucked him?
Oh, dude, everybody's like, ooh. Dude, like 4 seats over was like the drunkest dude I've ever seen at Lambeau Field, dude. He was so loud, but he was hilarious, dude. So I was like, hell yeah, dude, I want to buy that guy beer, keep him going, you know? But, Tucker Kraft had 5 catches between 0 and 10 yards, 69 yards.
Nice.
Yeah.
49 yards of rack.
Jeez.
49 of his 69 were run after catch, dude. This guy is
a yak monster.
On those 5 catches, he had 4 first downs. So, again, just absolutely a monster, a stud. Tight ends did a nice job blocking like they always do. Tucker Kraft is just – he might be the most underrated tight end in football. And I think to the casual fan, they're gonna watch a Green Bay game and they're gonna know names like Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs, and they're gonna know Christian Watson, maybe Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
But then they're gonna see Tucker Kraft and they're gonna be like, "Who the hell is that guy?" And we're gonna be like, "Should have been tuning in all season, buddy," because he's just an absolute stud. In my opinion, he's got to be in the conversation for top 5 tight ends this year. I don't think
this season, absolutely.
Did you see what he said about this game coming up? Okay,
I see what he said. I was getting arguments with Detroit fans all day today.
You want to put that in the pocket for the preview?
Oh, hey, it's in the pocket.
Okay, keep it in the pocket. Keep it in the pocket. We're still on the recap. All right. So, Bryant, how do you feel about the wide receivers?
Yeah, I thought they had an okay game. Great job by I don't want to say okay. They had a good game for what opportunities they were afforded. Really good by Jaden Reed turning 2 or 3 receptions into 2 touchdowns. Could have easily been 3 touchdowns on 4 receptions. He had that guy burnt on that one on the first drive, but Jordan overthrew it. But so good route by him there. Also a good job on the end around. Christian Watson, that throw and that pass and catch along the sidelines was just gorgeous. Like they showed the end zone angle, and you're just like, oh my god, that. And then going through the snow, it just was like, I'm a little. I obviously I had fun at the San Francisco game. I was a little jealous of Jake because I'm like, this is my dream is to be in the snow globe game. Yeah. We had a little bit of it, just a touch of it, but you're in that snow globe, and then you're just beating the hell out of the team you're playing. So
like that's your eye.
Yeah, but that was just a gorgeous pass and catch by Watson, and then I thought Wicks did a really good job turning it around after he had that drop. Also, a shout out to Watson. 2 weeks in a row now, he's broke up a potential interception, by going for the ball or being around the ball and, not letting it just fall to the ground. because he kind of laid out the Miami player there, bent him in half, and then but broke up the interception. So good on him. And like I said, Wicks, I thought he had I thought he was primed for a big game, but he had a big enough game where it mattered. He had like 40 yards. So only 3 of the wide receivers got involved, but overall, I thought they did a good job.
Can't let the wide receiver segment go by without mentioning how great all of them are in blocking.
Yeah,
the
I feel
Packers
like
have built a culture under Matt LaFleur of great blocking wide receivers, and that's a way to get on the field, and they are all bought into it. All of them are bought into it, and Christian Watson is one of the best in the league. I have no problem saying that, but Dontavian Wicks might be challenging him for the best on the team.
Yeah.
Dontavian Wicks threw some great blocks this week. So loving seeing that from him. Still being a really important part of the offense, even when he's not catching the ball.
Yeah, and I feel like they've been so good at it all year that, it goes without saying. But good job bringing it up again. But they've been killing it in the run game.
I had to bring it up just because I made this post earlier this week. All three of the top graded run blockers for the Packers this week were wide receivers, and it was Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, and Bull Melton. So shout out those guys.
I just want to throw in one more thing. The guys that aren't good at run blocking, like Jaden Reed, which is fine because he's a smaller stature guy.
Mm-hmm.
LaFleur does a nice job of using him in the misdirection game to set up the run as well. So good job by LaFleur noticing and playing to his player strengths, which is why he should be in the Coach of the Year ranks, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he won't get it. He'll go to Dan Campbell or someone else again.
Bro, he's literally tied with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell? What are we doing here?
Yeah. All right. So going into the passing game distribution, this is the first game that Jordan Love played as the full-time starter that he did not target 7 or more pass catchers. He had 6, targeted 6 players. He threw 26 throws, 6 players targeted. Tucker Kraft was 6 for 6. Josh Jacobs 4 for 4. He forced 7 missed tackles just in the passing game. I'm going to leave the rest for Bryant in the running game, but he forced 7 missed tackles just off of receptions. That's more than the Packers missed as a team total. Josh Jacobs forced that in receptions. Christian Watson was 2 for 3. Jaden Reed 3 for 6. Chris Brooks 2 for 2, and Dontavian Wicks 4 receptions on 5 targets. So looking at it, I know Jake already touched on this with the tight ends, but yards after the catch, the Packers had 187. That's a lot. 71 of them by Josh Jacobs, and then 61 by Tucker Kraft. Jordan Love was 1 for 3 on 20-plus yard throws, 1 for 2 on 10 to 19-yard throws. That's where one of the drops happened. 14 for 15 from 0 to 9, and 5 for 6 behind the line of scrimmage, and that's where another one of the drops came in. So overall, I mean, no complaints. The passing game distribution with Romeo Doubs potentially back this week, I'm positive that this number is going to go back up. So, all right, Bryant, how did you feel about the offensive line?
Yeah, I thought they had a really good game in the pass pro game. Once again, Jordan Love got out of here with no sacks. But once again, it was, even if he would have taken a sack, it probably wouldn't have been on the O-line. But he had 0 this game. More recently, it's been a lot of times when Jordan Love's got sacked. It's kind of been a little bit on Jordan, as much as the offensive line. But really good job in the offensive line by pass blocking. Only one penalty that. I mean, Jenkins just took the guy's soul and then they threw a flag on him. So I mean, he was roughing him up after the play. But honestly, it didn't bother me because I really, really, really wanted the Packers to take the points in that position. And Matt LaFleur said as much after the game that they probably would have taken it anyway. But in a different situation, that would have been pretty hurt. That would have been bad because it would have been 4th and like inches. But you got to kick the field goal there anyway. So, And I feel like Jenkins maybe just felt like bullying someone, and that's what he did. Now in the run game, the run blocking game, that I left some to be desired. They, the running backs only had 91 yards on 24 carries. That's excluding the end around from Reed. but that's only a 3.8 yard per carry. That's not excellent. That's so I feel like they need to do a better job with the run blocking. And we've kind of said that all year, so hopefully they can continue to just improve a little bit on that because we'll need it.
Miami does have a top 10 rushing.
Yeah, they are good against the rush. Yeah.
They're ninth currently ranked.
I was telling people that last week because they were picking on Joe Barry coming to Green Bay. Like, dude, their run defense is good.
Joe Barry is a very good linebacker coach.
Absolutely.
He's not a good defense coordinator.
Yes.
Strongly agreed. Yep. Calling a linebacker whisperer. He does great things with linebackers, but just don't give him control of the entire defense. So I'll stick with you, Bryant, on the running game.
Yeah, so you kind of alluded to it. Even with Jacobs only going for 40-something yards, he did force 8 missed tackles. So, and the team forced 14 as a total, is what I'm seeing on PFF here for missed tackles forced by Jacobs. Brooks had one. Jaden Reed had 3 missed tackles on the one carry he had in the game, and then Emmanuel Wilson had one as well. So, pretty good there. So, good job on them to continue. I thought they ran really hard, even when there wasn't much for them. You a lot of times they're not getting negative runs. They might be getting 0-yard run, but I think there was one that I thought for sure Jacobs was going to lose like 3-4 yards, and he does that once or twice a game where it's like it should be a 3 or 4 yard loss, and then it turns into like a 1 yard gain, which is funny because I get super frustrated when the Packers have that happen against them, and I'm like, what the hell? Why does that always happen? This happened, but Josh Jacobs is very good, and he just makes other people do that. So good on him. He got in for the touchdown as well. So I thought Manuel Wilson and Chris Brooks had a couple nice carries. And then, of course, Brooks in pass pro is pretty good. And then Jacobs just absolutely broke someone's ankles in the receiving game. Like, it was so nasty. He had something like 74 yards receiving or whatever it was. So, or it was pretty high. I can't remember. It was something like that, right? Maybe not quite that high, but.
He had like 48 on one catch, dude.
That was that play itself was a 49
It might have been 74. I might be on that.
He had 74 yards, and 71 of them were after the catch.
Yeah. So there's again, he's producing over 100 yards in a game and a touchdown. What else can you really ask for? He should crack 1,000 yards on the season this on week. Thursday night. So that'll be nice for rushing. So just really solid game from them. I'm hoping the O-line can step up and dominate. I think they should be able to have a good game against Detroit, but we'll talk about that here shortly. But overall, I thought they did a really good job running hard, and even knowing there wasn't a lot there for them.
For sure. Jake, how'd they do on 3rd and 4th down?
So, second game in 4 days, and they acted the same as they did the game prior on 3rd down. They went 5 for 11, just for context. In the first half, they went 4 for 6. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, we're cooking. We are frying these fish right now. It felt so good to sit there, see how they were just killing these guys. Had a couple touchdowns on 3rd downs. Both of Jaden Reed's touchdowns were on 3rd and short situations. Wilson got a nice big run on a 3rd down, 3rd and 4, got a 7-yard run. And we had a really, really, really sick 3rd down that we didn't convert, but it was a disgusting catch by Jaden Reed, the one-hander. Just pokes the left hand out there. He got 9 yards. We needed 12, but that was one of them that we didn't get. But holy crap, what a throw and what a catch, huh? You just see some of the splash plays from this offense. You see the drive they put together with 3 plays to get a field goal at the end of the half, right? And then you see some of the plays that they make, in the run game, in the pass game, and it's just like, dude, I don't even know if these guys are scratching the surface, to be quite honest with you. These guys could literally just explode for a 50 bomb one week, and nobody would be shocked. I mean, I wouldn't be. I'd be like,
you wouldn't be. Yeah.
I'd be like, I felt this coming for a couple of weeks now. I feel like this is a good week to have that explosion, but overall on 3rd down, they got to be a little bit more consistent. 1 for 5 in the second half. So, other than that, they did fine. Just be a little bit more consistent in both halves.
John said they will never beat Detroit. We are number 1. Hey, that underestimation is what got you beat on Thanksgiving last year, and we're playing on Thursday night again. So we'll see. We respect the Lions, but I wouldn't go as far as underestimating the Packers.
You guys were a bonehead coach away from being in overtime with the Bears, and he got fired the next day. They just didn't want to do it on Thanksgiving.
They were a bonehead coach from losing on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the Texans having a second half meltdown from losing that game too.
Don't get me wrong, Detroit's a very good team. They're not unbeatable.
Yeah. Okay. Going into the red zone, another good week for the Packers in the red zone. First trip, 2 runs to Josh Jacobs and a touchdown to Jaden Reed. Second trip, 1st and goal at the 7, Josh Jacobs for 6, then Josh Jacobs for 6. So 2 touchdowns, 2 trips. Third trip, so they start at 2nd 7 at the 17. They go a screen to Chris Brooks for 6 yards. 3rd and 2, a beautiful play call on the screen to Jaden Reed to have blockers in front of him to score that touchdown. So 3 trips, 3 touchdowns. The 4th trip, they scored a field goal. And the 5th trip, they also scored a field goal. So 3 for 5 on touchdowns in the red zone. That's 60%. The Dolphins were allowing 48%. So they exceeded their opponent, and they've improved themselves from kind of like a bottom third to a much better percentage in the red zone. So I'm looking forward to that hopefully continuing to trend up. John, your record says otherwise. So going into Jordan Love, Brian, what did you think about Jordan Love specifically?
Yeah, just a really good game. I mean, super efficient, super accurate. Second game in a row, knock on wood, that there was no interceptions coming out more healthy. I don't think he really had any turnover-worthy balls. I know we had the one that was like, oh, it could have been a, scoop and score. There's a reason those quarterbacks throw that ball forward a yard. They literally practice and do that all the time because they don't want to throw it backwards and have that happen. So don't tell me that should have been, or he was lucky that it wasn't a scoop and score. It wasn't luck. That's how that play is designed.
Yep.
The almost pick with Wicks going off his hands, that's on Wicks. He needs to catch that ball.
Both of those players were credited as drops.
And then the only throw you wish he kind of had back was the first throw, or that throw on the first drive where he's running forward and kind of launches it too far. If he has that back, makes that throw, it's probably a touchdown or a huge gain. Other than that, I thought he was pretty perfect from what I've seen.
Yeah, Jake and I broke down a bunch of clips from both the 49ers and the Dolphins games of him making throws in the flat and how those are much harder throws than they show up in the score sheet. It shows up as a 4-yard touchdown to Jaden Reed to be like, oh, 4-yard touchdown. But he's throwing from the opposite hash to the far pylon. That's like a 30-yard throw.
Yeah, and that's such a tight window.
Horizontal, not vertical.
Yeah. I think, and Jake mentioned it too, that one scramble play where he runs out to the right and he hits Jaden Reed, and Jaden Reed makes that one-handed catch. For one, that just sick play. But his movement there, you can see he's healthier. And then the catch from, Reed was also sick. So
absolutely.
I just feel like he's definitely the healthiest he's been, aside from a really, really sloppy field in Brazil, to where he probably wasn't feeling like he could do much there. So I feel like he's really, kind of returning to last season form. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah. You already mentioned the dime to Christian Watson on the sideline. That was a 3rd and 6. They're just recognizing that Christian Watson has a one-on-one. That was on the first drive of the second half. So Jordan Love finished 21 of 28, and there were 2 drops. He could have been 23 for 28. That's insane. There was some complaints about his efficiency or his completion percentage earlier in the season. It's been much better. He finished with a 129.2 rating. Love to see that. John said, just like Michigan beat Ohio, the pack is going down. Jake brought up a beautiful point this week that Wisconsin sports are going to beat a bunch of Michigan teams this week, starting with the Bucks just beating Detroit, and now the Badgers and Michigan currently playing. So that'll be 2 for 2, and then Thursday night can be 3 for 3, beating Detroit teams, which would be fun. Darian said, how much different and better has our pass rush been since the Preston Smith trade? I can look at it again now that we've played 2 more games since the last time, but it's been much, much better. And it's not to say that it's an addition by subtraction, but it's just guys are stepping up in their increased playing time.
Honestly,
Last
I
thing
might
on
be.
Love, he did correctly, Bryant, 0 turnover worthy plays. And he was 6 for 10 under pressure, which I will take. 60% under pressure. I'll take that completion percentage. So, Jake, what did you think of Jordan Love?
So what did I tell you yesterday when we were doing our play breakdowns? He is this close to becoming Jordan Love Toyota-thon that he was last year. You could tell, like Bryant said, the feet are there. He's slinging passes. He's throwing in tight windows, and the confidence is rising with every completion. The completion percentage has been there. Great point by you saying there was no turnover-worthy plays by both you guys. But you could tell just by watching him play. I mean, I didn't get to see it, obviously, until I watched the replay, but his reaction to Josh Jacobs' juke, number 11, who's just going to become a viral victim. I'm like, that's the Jordan Love that we need. The swagger is coming back, and he is this close, dude. If he goes into Detroit, dude, I'm telling you, if he goes into Detroit and throws 4 touchdowns and no picks and just shits all over Detroit, oh my goodness, we are going to be so back, dude. I can't wait for that.
Darian, I wrote that down to look that up. I will look up those numbers and I will get a post out this week. John is cheering for Jared Goff. I hope he has a really bad game. Other than that, we'll see. We'll talk about Jared Goff now that we're going into the preview here for the Packers defense. Bryant, what are you looking for from the Packers defense against the Lions offense and Jared Goff?
Yeah, so it's going to be a pretty big challenge, and I don't know if the Packers can allow them to do what they just allowed Miami to do, because Jared Goff is very, very efficient, and if you want to let him go for 20 for 20, he's going to go 20 for 20. So if we're going to let him do those drop downs, he's in those check downs, he's going to do it. So the linebackers are going to have their hands full against these running backs and Laporta, and they're going to need a lot of help from the safeties. I think the Packers are going to need to try to get Goff under pressure, because that's when he can struggle. That's what we did last year when he had a bunch of turnovers and everything. He fumbled a bunch and everything else. So I do think that we could see Quay Walker have a big role in that, trying to get some pressure up the middle. So these linebackers have to be flying around and hopefully play better in coverage than they have recently, or we have a better plan to make sure the safeties are there to help them. I feel like as crazy as it sounds, I feel like we do need to force Goff to beat us and not the Gibbs and Montgomery, because Gibbs and Montgomery are a very dynamic duel. There will probably be, I don't know when the last time, a team had 2 1,000-yard rushers on it. They have a very good chance to do that this year. Gibbs is right behind Josh Jacobs and as far as running the ball. And they're highly involved in the pass catching aspect of the game as well. So these linebackers and safeties have their hands full.
Darian brought up a really good point with this game is health. And he said we had key players out that will be there this Thursday. That is absolutely true. Yeah. And unfortunately for the Lions, they're missing some key players as well. They're kind of banged up defensively. So
it's like the exact opposite of, we were coming pretty banged up. Even Jordan Love was still banged up and everything else against the Lions. Now it's turning around and it's the opposite a little bit.
Yeah. And we'll get to the injury designations with Bryant in a minute. So for me, looking at the defense, it's going to be similar to last week. I'll be focusing on the maintaining control of the edges, not letting David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs get to the edge, and also need to be on top of their game with the tackling as far as those two go. I'm going to come back to this point in a later segment. So, spoiler alert. Jake, what are you looking for from the Packers defense?
I was going to phrase your tackling point and say, bring your shoulder pads this week, boys, because we're gonna need to tackle and wrap up Gibbs, especially in space. In terms of third down offense and third down defense, Lions third down offense in this case. Lions are fourth and third down offense at 45.7%. That's fourth in the NFL. The Packers are 12th in third down defense, only allowing 34% of conversions. So that's very good. Fourth down, I wrote down because the Lions like to go for it on fourth down a lot. They are 10th in percentage, 64.7%. In terms of red zone, the Packers allowing 58.97%. That's getting better. The Lions actually, they convert 2 out of 3, basically. They're 66%. And in terms of pass rush, the Packers average 2.7 sacks per game. That is 13th in the NFL. The last 3 weeks, they are sacking the quarterback at a clip of 3.3 per game. That is 9th in the NFL, so a top 10 pass rush the last 3 weeks. And on the road, the Packers average 3.4 sacks per game on the road, which is 3rd in the NFL. So they up their game when they have to away from Lambeau Field. So hopefully that's the case again. If we are going to follow the blueprint for last year, the offense has to get off to a fast start, and we have to stop the run. That is how you get after Jared Goff and not allow them just to run the clock.
Yep.
Yeah. Going into special teams, Brian, what are you looking for from special teams?
Yeah, nothing crazy. I didn't notice any crazy outliers. However, you're in a dome. Make your kicks. This is a team you cannot afford to leave any points on the table. Even if it's a 53, 54-yarder, hopefully McManus is on his game. He's been very solid so far. And then Whelan, he'll be big in helping us flip the field position, because if he can flip the field position and put them behind the six, we make them. They're good. They're a very good team. They're going to move the ball. It'd be better if we make them move it 80, 90 yards every time, that we don't turn around and score. So he'll be big there. And then, I doubt we'll have many return opportunities, and either team will have many return opportunities kicking in a dome. You know what I mean? So unless they do it on purpose. So if they want to give Nixon the ball, sure, hopefully he breaks one. He's gotten close a couple times. Now would be like one of those games that, you need a special teams touchdown or something like that to maybe pull off the upset on the road. So, maybe we can pull something off like that. But other than that, it should be pretty standard. Just protect the ball, make your kicks, and boom some punts.
It's a lot of trash talk coming from a team you split with the last 2 years. Just throw that out there.
I'm not even going to pay attention. Next.
Okay. Going into the coaching, I talked about this on the defensive line already. My thing with the coaching is to coach out the neutral zone infraction penalties, because that is something that I believe is easily correctable. Now, the offsides, I am a little less perturbed about, because those I'm okay with occasionally when you are trying to jump snap counts. That to me is a penalty where you're trying to exert effort to make a potential game-breaking play. So I'm okay with taking 5 yards here and there if the potential is to beat an offensive line and get a sack or a run stop, or potentially a force a turnover by jumping a snap count like that. So those penalties don't bother me quite as much, but the neutral zone infractions where you're just lining up in the wrong spot, those can be easily fixed, and that's something I'd like to see coached. Yeah, there we go. Darian's got it back. All right, going to the offense. Jake, what are you looking for from the Packers offense against the Lions defense?
Man, if they do not hand the ball to Josh Jacobs at least twice every drive with the amount of people that they have out, and I'm not trying to steal Brian's thunder, they're missing a lot of guys in the front seven. This is a game, and I know Josh Jacobs is a little sore, but you have to realize that you get a little mini bye after this. You put the team on your back and you just carry us, man. That's what has to happen in my opinion. I'm not going to make, it's not part of my Simon Says, but I do think that Josh Jacobs is going to have 150 yards in this game. He's going to tote the rock. He's going to have 150 and a tutty. I really believe that with the people that they have out and the game plan that LaFleur is going to roll out there. In terms of third down offense, the Packers have been getting a little bit better, getting a little bit more conversions. They do need more consistency. They've been killing it in the first halves, not killing it in the second halves, but we've been whooping people's asses. So, like, you can't really stay focused when you're up 28-10 at half, At
that point, the focus becomes killing clock, not scoring points.
Yeah, so maybe the play calling is something left to desired, I guess. But in terms of third down offense, we're at 38.2%. That is 16th in the NFL. Lions are number 1 in the NFL in terms of third down defense. Over the last 3 weeks, they are number 6. They only allow 3.7 conversions per game, but I think there's going to be a different story this week.
All right. Bryant, what are you looking for from the offense?
Yeah, Jake pretty much took the words out of my mouth, but I agree with him. There's a lot of injuries on this Lions front, and don't forget, in Green Bay, Josh Jacobs was absolutely gashing them right up the middle. He was that first half, he was running all over them until that pick six happened, and we kind of had to get away from the run. Josh Jacobs was having a good game against them. And I don't, with the injuries that they have out, Malcolm Rodriguez just tore his ACL on that crappy field there in Detroit. So, they're down some players. So I do feel like Josh Jacobs can take control of this game. They're a good defense, but they do allow 4.4 yards per carry on the season. And a lot of teams can't run against them because they put up big numbers. They put up big offense. So I think, to win this game, the Packers need to run the ball effectively with Josh Jacobs and keep the Lions on the sideline where, they're not getting a bunch of offensive drives. And maybe we play the role of you kill the clock, run the ball. And then I think for throwing the ball, I think I think we kind of want to do what Miami just did to us a little bit, keep everything in front of their safeties because their safeties are very good. And then when you're throwing deep, don't get me wrong, take some double shots to like Wicks or to Watson. But when you do that, do it against Arnold on the outside because he likes to grab and get PIs called against him and make it ranged over to where maybe the safeties can't get over as easily. So I think you just got to you probably don't want to be taking deep shots in the middle of the field against this team. Take them on the boundaries and keep everything in the middle of the field short.
I'm with that. Going into it, this might be one of those games where if the Packers win the toss, I could see them taking the ball. And
they're taking the ball.
They've done it every time, and Matt LaFleur says he likes doing it. So I could see Detroit.
I hate to give credit to a team that has not done many things well, but the Chicago Bears have shown against the Packers and the Lions by shortening the game, you can limit the explosion.
Yeah.
They held both the Packers to 20, and they held the Lions to 23. There's merit. There's merit to that style of game plan, so maybe the Packers can kind of take a page out of that book and use it against the Lions. Now, the Lions are banged up, so as far as the offense goes, looking to spread the ball around to all of the playmakers that the Packers have. Obviously, we know them all. As far as the red zone, Detroit is allowing 42%. That's number 3 in the NFL. The Packers are up to 55.1%. They're up about 9 spots in the last 3 weeks, where in the last 3 weeks, they are scoring on 73.3% of their red zone tries. That's just touchdowns.
That's what, 3 weeks after the bye?
That is Chicago, San Francisco, and Miami.
Yep.
And that's 2 really good red zone defenses and 1 really bad red zone defense. So, much improvement. I'd like to see that momentum continue. If the Packers get 3 chances again, I'd be happy with them getting if they get 5 chances again, I'd be happy with them getting 3 touchdowns again like they did against Miami.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bryant, what is your matchup to watch? Actually, sorry, before we do that, I'm still going to Bryant, but injury designations to watch.
Yeah, so we're waiting to see what happens with Jaw and Dobbs, but they practiced all 3 practices. I have an inkling what's going to happen is they might hold off Jaw, especially if he's like a game time. Let's work him out before the thing. As much as we'd love to have him back versus Detroit, and I really hope he is, it's tantalizing to be like, well, if we just let him sit out this, we have 10 more days off and that PCL fully heals up. Dobbs, I know LaFleur is saying he's still in concussion protocol, but he's practiced 3 days in a row. I got to imagine he's about out of that. And, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully he's still not suffering from symptoms. I feel like if he was suffering some symptoms, he would have been down. He wouldn't have practiced again. So Elton Jenkins was on the injury report. He'll be fine. But for the Lions, sounds like they might be without Decker, who's a very good offensive line for them. They won't have Pascal, Reeder, or I can't remember how to say his name, on Zikri or whatever his name is. I can't say that damn name. But that's a large portion of their defensive line. That's why I'm saying we got to run the ball against them. So,
well, and then they have Zadarius Smith, who likes to act like he's injured every other play.
Was Riki? I don't. It's a really tricky name. If I heard it, if it was a Packer player and I was used to hearing the name, I would be able to be better. So I apologize for that, butchering that. But yeah, they're down a lot of defensive linemen. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Jake, what's the weather report?
I can't say what I want to say, but they're in a dome, so nothing to report. I'm just gonna keep it PG this week.
All right, Bryant, what's your matchup to watch?
Yeah, so I put Jacobs and company versus Gibbs and Montgomery. So I feel like if Jacobs and Brooks has been very good and explosive, and Emmanuel Wilson quietly breaks like one big run a game or 2 big runs a game, if they can outplay Montgomery and Gibbs, the Packers will have a pretty good chance of winning this game.
I like it. I'm going to jump in because I also have the Detroit running backs, but it's against the Packers defense. So I took the numbers since the Packers last played the Lions. So since the last game against the Lions, the Packers have only missed 23 tackles total in 4 games.
Nice.
Which includes the Detroit game. Includes the Detroit running backs. The Detroit running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, and Raheem Mostert. Those are the running backs Packers have played against, as well as the guys in Chicago. 23 missed tackles in 4 games. That is beautiful.
That's really nice.
David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have forced 32 missed tackles in 5 games since Week 9 on their own. That's just those 2, period. So looking for the Packers defense to make sure the tackling is on point is my matchup. Justin said, "What's up with the comments? Mine aren't showing. Are you sure you're making comments?" I'm just kidding. I'm sure you are.
You're not talking to yourself in your own head again?
I'm sure your comments are somewhere in the ether. But Jake, what's your matchup to watch?
Kirby, bring that ass here, boy. Bring that ass here, boy. And all the Detroit fans that stick up for Kirby Joseph and think that he's not dirty, you're going to go against your old quarterback? There's literally audio of him going up to Kirby and pointing in his face and saying, "You are a dirty player. You make dirty hits. Everybody knows it." And Tucker Kraft, I'm going to tell you right now, Detroit fans, I was reading your comments today. You guys are trying to bite off more than you can handle because Tucker Kraft ain't one to play with. He dribbles people's heads off turf. Just ask the Minnesota Vikings cornerback what happened to him
cut last week.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if Tucker Kraft gets lined up on Kirby Joseph and there it's 1-on-1, you ain't gonna like what's gonna happen to Kirby Joseph.
That dude's getting planted.
He either that or he's gonna try to go for his legs and he's gonna get hurdled because he's gonna be a soft ass bitch. I said I was gonna keep it PG.
I don't understand how you can be a Lions fan and be anything other than just wanting to protect your perception of your team's player to not understand that Kirby Joseph has done some dirty shit.
Yeah.
Dude,
well, that's what Kraft said too. He said, you've hurt my brothers, and he said he's going to look for him in the run blocking game.
Yeah.
So that means he's going to look for him, and he wants to. I don't look. Not to jump in and steal your thing. I would be fine if Tucker Kraft took his ass, slammed him to the ground, took a 15-yard penalty just to fire up the entire Packers team.
Yeah.
Because he is a dirty player, and he knows it. Their lines are dirty. Not only last time we played them, they're sitting there twisting Love's ankle on the same play where someone else. I think it was Kirby going low on somebody, but he didn't end up hurting them. They are a dirty team.
Yeah, they are this close to being a dirty team. They toe the line very close, I will say. But I have some stats on Tucker Kraft. 13.3 yards per reception, 9.8 yards after catch per reception, 23.1 average every time he catches the fucking ball. Holy hell, dude. And I hope that Kirby Joseph is on the other end of that 23. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, ever since Kirby Joseph dove into Romeo Dobbs' ankle last year.
Yep.
Nope. You're done.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Going into X Factors. Bryant, who's your X Factor?
Mine is Jordan Love. I think this is the time that he can show that he's back into form and he can go into this game, and if he can control this game, and maybe we get a lot of plays, and maybe it's mostly running, but when we throw the ball, if he can protect the ball, make very, very efficient game, like something like 22 for 29 for 210 and 2 touchdowns again or something like that. Yeah, that's not blowing the stats out of the water, but that's going into a stadium, playing where it's going to be a loud, crazy environment, and putting up good numbers and put your team in the position to win. So for me, I think he's an X factor for protecting the ball, converting on third downs, and just keeping the Packers on the field.
All right, Jake, who's your X factor?
My X factor is Josh Jacobs. So I have Tucker Kraft for my matchup and Josh Jacobs for my X factor because those guys are the tone setters. We are a physical football team on the offensive side. The defense is coming along. They're starting to understand, the scheme, and they're starting to play how they're supposed to play. But on offense, Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs get everybody going. Now, Obviously, Jordan Love has to push all the right buttons, which he has the last couple of weeks. So I love that my X Factor is playing off Bryant's X Factor. Josh Jacobs, last time he played the Lions, he had 3.51 yards after contact. Oh, I apologize. He's averaging 3.51. He had 6.15 yards after contact versus Detroit last time he played. And this time is in a dome. So there's no excuses for missing tackles. And Josh Jacobs is going to have great footing in this one. I'm looking for Jacobs and Kraft to set the tone early and often.
Justin said his S factor is our linebackers in the run and pass protection can't give up the running backs or the Laporta/tight ends any open space. Might have to just kind of live with that. I mean, I don't remember which one of you two brought it up with the Miami game, but just keeping stuff in front, kind of forcing them to try to dink and dunk instead of giving up the splash plays.
Yeah.
My X factor is Jair Alexander. I do agree that if he's, kind of 50-50 on playing or not, to hold him out because you have the mini bye. But I think we need not only his defense on the field, but I need Jair's attitude on the field.
Oh, yeah.
That's where he becomes my X factor. There's this perception that Jair Alexander doesn't want to play in big games, which I disagree with. Every time that the Packers are getting ready to play the Vikings, like Jair is wanting to talk shit to Justin Jefferson. So like he doesn't want to duck big games. He doesn't want to duck games, period. But it makes no sense to try to rush him back just to have him have a worse injury and then miss more time than he would have if you had just played it safer with his current injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I need the attitude as well as the defensive play. So that said, Bryant, give me your score prediction from the head.
From the head, I said 28-27 Packers.
Oh, close. All right. I'll be honest. From the head, I do have 27-23 Detroit. I still think the Packers need to figure out their offense a little bit. There are some catalysts here, like Rashawn Gary last year completely ruined the game for the Lions. So I'm not going to say that this is going to be the other score prediction that I have. So, Jake, what's your score prediction from the head?
I have Green Bay 27-21.
All right. Flip it to the heart. Brian, what's your score prediction from the heart?
35-27 Packers.
All right. This is where I have it a little bit more spaced out. I have 33-20 Packers from the heart.
Oh. Okay. I have 30-20 Green Bay.
I like it. All right, Bryant, what do you got for some Simon Says, some bold predictions?
Well, Jake pretty much took the one right out of my mouth. I put Josh Jacobs for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, though.
Hell yeah.
Let me jump in. Jake, you're going to love this because of what you've been saying this whole show. The Lions are banged up at linebacker. So my offensive Simon Says is that Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft feast and have 2 touchdowns each.
I'm feeling it, dude. I feel that I feel it, dude.
Hey, real quick, John, I know you'll be here if you guys win, so just make sure you're here as well if you don't win. And just remember that energy. Don't run scared if we end up beating you guys like we did last year.
Matthew said 27-20 Packers. I like it. All right, Jake, what do you have on offense?
So I already said it, but Jordan Love 4 touchdowns.
All right, I'm with it.
Pretty plain and simple.
Justin said from the head, 31-28. From the heart, 34-21. I like those.
If we 34-21 these boys in Detroit, it's going to be a long night for Detroit fans. Long night.
All right, Bryant, what do you got on the defensive side for Simon Says?
The Packers forced 3 turnovers.
I like it. All right, mine is a pick 6 by Keyshawn Nixon.
Dude, you know how close he was this last game to getting one of those?
I know.
if he undercuts that ball instead of sticking his hand out, he's gone. He's absolutely gone.
And the speed showed up on the tape this week as well. All right, Jake, what do you got on defense?
So, Detroit offense and the Detroit team in total talks a lot of shit for a team who hasn't won anything. Oh, we were close to the Super Bowl. Congratulations.
How many times did they give us shit for Rodgers losing in the championship?
Exactly. Jahmyr Gibbs, dumbass, did a TikTok dance, gave away all the calls. And then Ben Johnson goes to the podium and he says, maybe we wanted him to be out there. It's pretty hard to stop us. So if we call it and you still can't stop us, then what? Cover your ears if you don't like swearing. These motherfuckers need some goddamn humble pie. And the Packers are going to give them that. They're going to give them the humble pie. They're going to hold the Detroit running backs under 100 rush yards this week. Both of them combined.
Man,
we're going to whoop that ass, dude.
If we do that, I don't know how we lose unless we just let Goff throw all over us.
Yeah, that would be the only way. But also, if they're not running the ball, that means that we're whooping them and they have to throw.
Yeah.
Touche.
Let's not pretend like Goff can't throw some interceptions. I'm pretty sure he's tied with Jordan Love with 11 interceptions. Or is it 12 now?
He's not good under pressure. I know I remember looking that up when we were doing the last preview against them about 5 weeks ago. He is not good under pressure.
He had a game with 5 interceptions. I know you can say, well, that's skewed to stats. Well, guess what? Who's to say he's not going to turn around and have another game like that? He has 9 interceptions on the season.
He has 9 on the season. Even if he has half that and throws 2.5 picks, you're talking 2 or 3 interceptions. Like that's not a possibility. So, yeah, I mean, that's what Justin said. He said Goff has 2 interceptions and a strip sack for a touchdown.
That's what happened last year.
That is. Justin said, Simon says, Bo Melton gets a touchdown. Jacobs has 2 touchdowns on 110 plus yards. That's pretty on board with what Brian said. So I think he agrees with you on that one. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in. John, I appreciate you even as a Lions fan tuning in for the entire Packers show. I do appreciate that. That does help us. Just to throw that out there. But again, we appreciate it. Darian, Matthew, Justin commenting on the show live as always. We will be back next Tuesday, and we'll be talking about hopefully a win. But unlike John in the comments, we do respect our opponents. So we respect the Lions. They are a good football team. This has become a much more real rivalry than it has been for the previous 20 years. Something that the Bears fan also wish was the case. But it's been much more older brother, little brother, as opposed to actual rivals like the Lions and the Packers are becoming. And the splits over the last 2 seasons really shows that. So as far as the Packers go, hopefully this season ends in another split as well. And either way, we'll be back next Tuesday talking about this game, and we will see you guys then.